نصف الأنين بداخلي كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محن تمر وكم كرهت مصابها لكن رأيت الخير يسكب في أنا كم مرة قد ضقت من عظم
Your cat's behind as well.
He showed up.
He showed up. Okay. أولا بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Special episode today. Allah يبارك فيكم. I'm looking forward to this. We've got our dear brother Bashir, joining us today. So, brother, let's show some love to the people.
Wa alaikum salam. Thanks for having me. Glad to be part of the Muslims of the world, from the Philippines to West Africa to all the way to America.
And all the way to, well, it's not so sunny here. It's 9 o'clock in the night. So yeah, Birmingham loves the Muslims. Birmingham loves our brothers from all over the world, and I'm sure my brother's going to educate us today. So let's just sort of give a brief sort of introduction to yourself. What's your background? And introduce yourself to the people so we know exactly what we're here or what we're doing here today.
Yeah, sure. So my full name is Bashir Ahmad Shah. I'm from California, from the USA. I was born a Qadiani Ahmadi in Rabwa. I was actually born in Rabwa, but my parents brought me to America when I was like 2 months or something like that. So, but yeah.
What is Rabwa? What is Rabwa for those who don't know? What is Rabwa?
Rabwa is that Arabic word in chapter 23, verse 50, that is where Isa alayhi salam and his mother, this is about his birth. This is about the birth of Isa. The Qadiani Ahmadis flipped it and made it about the death of Isa, which is so far out there. It's ridiculous, right? But yeah, so in 1947, when Pakistan was created, Ahmadis had political power. And they got their own city, a private city, on a 99-year lease.
How did they manage to get that agreed? I don't get it.
Because they were in with the British government. They're in, like they're in bed with them. So they get whatever they want. In fact, the first governor general or president of Azad Kashmir was a Qadiani Ahmadi.
Azad Kashmir is where my father's from, by the way.
Yeah. So they had the first governor general or whatever it's called for, like, I think it was 6 to 7 months. And the Khalifa, the son of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, was politically, he was in Lahore in late 1947. He's involved in the government. Zafrullah Khan is made the defense minister. He was
an Ahmadi. He was
a Qadiani Ahmadi. Remember, there's two groups, the Lahoris and the Qadianis. So that's the only reason we call them Qadianis, because they're different from the Lahoris.
Wow. So they're split from amongst their own.
Yeah, the Lahori Ahmadis are non-family. They called the family of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad as Pidi Muridi, Gadi.
Achha.
And they said Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is not a prophet.
So,
so now they don't have to listen to him. If he makes a mistake on Yuz Asif in India, they're like, oh, he's not a prophet. You don't have to believe.
So what is he, according to them? What is he?
A Messiah, a Mujaddid, a Mahdi. Still, it's the same problem.
It's just a little difference, isn't there? Really?
They denied the prophethood of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Also, astaghfirullah, even to say this in Ramadan, they believe that Isa alayhi salam had a biological father.
Wow.
Yeah. And the Quran specifically, like, goes out of its way to deny. It's not like there's a gray. There's no gray. So, but the Qadiani Ahmadis aren't with us on the miraculous birth of Isa alayhi salam.
From both sides, from the Lahoris and the
because Mirza Ghulam Ahmad gave mixed messages over his writings. They're inconsistent. Sometimes he said this. So the Qadiani Ahmadis, their fourth Khalifa said that maybe Maryam, astaghfirullah, was a hermaphrodite. He went that far and said
the Dajjal.
No, the fourth Khalifa, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad left. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said, oh, even insects get born in the rainy season all by themselves. It's not a big deal. That's what he said. So he was hinting towards he doesn't believe it to be a miracle. Remember, they don't believe in miracles.
Yeah.
So why would they believe in this miracle, right?
So what we'll do is we'll sequence this. We'll sort of deal with this in stages. So what I want to ask you, because I'll be honest with you, my knowledge of Qadianism or Ahmadiyya is not the best. And that's why we have you on today, my dear brother, is to educate us and to give us a historical context background to this movement. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move on and talk about certain findings that you unearthed and certain findings that need to be made public so that the world is aware, especially the Muslims are aware of how deceptive, and you like to use that word a lot, I've noticed. They're very deceptive of how they transmit evidences and how they purport their views. So first of all, give us, because you've been born into were you born into the Lahori side or the other one? Which side were you in?
The Qadiani side.
The Qadiani side. It's like
but then Qadian, they lost it. They lost Qadian in 1947. It stayed on India's side.
So the border didn't help them then, did it?
And they purposely did. There was a census in 1947 where they said we're non-Muslim. So they helped, and there were 200 Ahmadi officers in the British military in 1947. They had at Qadian a pilot training program. The only pilot training program outside of England
was in Qadian.
So they got a lot of clout. The British have been trusting them since Mirza Ghulam Ahmad and his father. They're like, we know we can trust these guys.
They're ours, man. They're ours.
They're with us. Okay, the Sunni and the Shia, they're like, we don't know. They're like, these guys, we know we can trust.
Exactly.
We're definitely.
So getting to the movement itself, obviously, I didn't know that was a very valid and pertinent point about when the 1947 partition happened. Obviously, Qadian's on the Indian side of Punjab. Now, my mother's from the Pakistan side of Punjab, so I've got Kashmiri blood and Punjabi blood. So in terms of this movement, now let's get to the movement, because what we want to do is start off from its roots, and then we're going to work our way throughout history, and then deal with the important finding. We're going to leave the best to the last, box office. So explain, or even give us a context and a historical lesson about the movement itself, the founding father, and what you were taught when you were of that particular movement, or from that particular movement at that time. So yeah, Bismillah.
Yeah, so Mirza Ghulam Ahmad came around. He was born. His birth is a problem too. He says he was born in 1839 or 1840. They backdated it to 1835 because there was a problem. He died early. He had a prophecy, as we all know. Isa alayhi salam was supposed to live for 40 years. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad made the prophecy that he would live 40 years. 28 years into it, he's dead. So they changed his birth date. Anyhow, so he was born into Sikh Punjab, Sikh controlled Punjab.
Yes.
And then his father was in the Sikh military, one of the very few Muslims in the Sikh military. In fact, his father was with the army who killed a famous Sayyid Ahmad Khan.
Okay.
Right. So he's with the Sikhs. His dad's in the Sikh military for like 25 years, 20 years, a long time. Then the British come along and they make friends with the British. They switch sides. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is a young kid when all this is happening. He's like 10 years old, right? So then 1857. Do you know about 1857, the War of the Mutiny?
The rebellion, or the fight for independence, 1857.
Right, and it's a funny story because the newest technology gun needed to be greased with a beef and pork fat packet. So somehow, I've never seen it, you have to bite into it to lube your gun, right? Okay. But these guns have like 500 yards of range, whereas the older gun had like 100.
Okay.
It's a huge advantage. It's like
400 yards, man.
Or you know what? I don't remember what the difference is, but it's a huge advantage. I mean, can you imagine if you're shooting and your range is, and the other guy's like double the range, you're finished.
Yeah. Massive advantage, yeah.
Right. So the soldiers rebelled. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's father helped the British. The British were in trouble. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's father showed up with 50 horses.
What's his father's name? What's his father's name?
Mirza Ghulam Murtaza.
Mirza Ghulam Murtaza.
And yeah, there is a historical document on all this from the British government called the Punjab Chiefs. If you ever want to read about the Punjab, I'm from the Punjab. You know, there's
Pakistan
a book. I'm from the Pakistan side. Right. So there's a famous book. It's online called the Punjab Chiefs, and it talks about
note that down, people.
Yeah, note that down. It's Mirza Ghulam Murtaza is right there. Him and his brothers were one of the chiefs of the Punjab, sided with the British under colonialism. So he has a son, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who breaks his right arm in his youth.
Did he? Okay, so that was in his youth.
In his youth. So he might be able to scribble a page, but he can't write 20 pages. I mean,
probably wrote with his left hand.
No, they had scribes back then.
Yes. Pay them and they'll write for you. Yes.
And they're right. Now that job doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, you know, they used to hire mathematicians to do calculations for NASA. They would have a team of 20 checking the math. You don't have a job anymore. The calculator.
Yeah, it's done.
Not have a job. So this is sort of the background. Also, the Wahhabi movement is happening in Saudi Arabia with the British government. Now, I haven't figured out the connection exactly, but these things are bubbling at sort of the same time, right? And the Ottoman Empire is Hanafi fiqh.
Yeah.
And they're in the middle. They're the big Islamic empire. The Mughal Empire is the other Islamic empire. And the Islamic Empire in Indonesia has been taken out, and Malaysia has been taken out. These are the last two, right? So the British are going after them. They both use Hanafi fiqh. The Ali Hadith movement begins to happen in North India, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's a part of it, right? Okay, so as he was growing up, there's no masjid in Qadian. So he never went to congregational prayers. He never went to Jummah. There's no record. Where do you go to Jummah if there's no masjid in a 20-mile radius? And you would.
It's a small town, is it? What is it exactly? The village.
Qadian was a Sikh town. Even now, it's 90% Sikh and Hindu.
Okay, Qadian is predominantly Hindu and Sikh.
Yep. Because all the Muslims in the Eastern Punjab there's like the population of Muslims in Eastern Punjab is like 100,000, maybe 20,000.
More towards our side, our Punjab.
Everybody had moved, or they went to Delhi. Right? You could go either. I mean, there's a lot of Muslims in Delhi. I would love to live in. You know, Delhi was the seat of the Mughal Empire.
Of course, capital, wasn't it?
You know, so this is sort of the environment. So the 1857 thing happens. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was 16, 17. He can't lift a rifle because his right hand, when he drinks chai, he's got a. So you know,
is he shaking? Is he shaking like this?
Because he didn't get the corrective surgery that we could get now. You know, now you break your arm and you just leave it the way it is. You don't have a corrective surgery. You know, but in those days,
how did he break his arm? By the way, we sort of skipped. How did he break his arm?
He fell off of a roof, I guess, and it didn't heal properly. How's it going to heal properly by itself?
Yeah.
Right. Back then, if you break something, you have to live with it.
Wow.
Right. I mean, the technology doesn't exist, and pretty soon we won't be having doctors because the robots will be doing our surgeries for us. Right.
Everything will be machinery, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because and the robots will be perfect. They'll never make a mistake, you know. So if you can fine tune them, but so anyhow, so Mirza Ghulam Ahmad couldn't lift a rifle. He doesn't go, but his cousin goes, his brother goes, his dad goes. They help the British. The British say, "We're gonna give you a pension."
Back then,
in Punjabi, we'd say a pension mil gayi.
pension mil gayi hona.
Pension mil gayi utho.
Zindagi ban gayi hona.
They're like, right? And the British said, you know what? We're going to make you, the British did indirect rule. You know what? We'll make you in charge of Qadian and the surrounding villages. You'll be the tax collector and we'll make your family that.
Yeah, governor. We'll make you the governor.
Yeah, so now his dad is doing that. So he gets a pension. It started at 200 rupees a month. Then it got up to 700. But as it was 200 rupees, Mirza Ghulam Murtaza sends his son, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, hey, go pick up the pension money. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says,
Get the check. Get the check. Get the check.
Well, I don't know if he went to Delhi, Ludhiana. We don't know where he went to go pick it up, right? But like back then it was cash. How else, right? Yeah. I don't even know the currency, but maybe it was rupees. I don't know.
Yeah, it must be rupees. It must be probably rupees back then.
So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad goes to pick up the money. His cousin goes with him. you know, in Punjabi culture, your cousin's like your brother, bro.
Yeah.
So if you pull up with your cousin, bro, you know, like you're with your boy, you know what I mean? Like you're hanging out. So his cousin goes with him. They pick up
the one that enlisted in the army. Is that his cousin, though?
Yeah, his cousin had fought for the British. Later on, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad hated him, right? But but at the time, they're like this. So he goes to pick up the money. And then they say, no, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was innocent. His cousin, they blame the cousin. You know, when something happens, who do you blame? It wasn't me, Dad. So they spend all the money, which is hard to do. This is a lot of money. This is like a year worth of money.
They just spent it.
And no one knows on what.
What do you think? What do you think?
You know, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is about 30 years old. He's got all this money. His cousins with him. They're like,
they're rolling deep. They're rolling deep.
They're rolling deep, bro. So he spends all the money. Then, you know, he says, so he can't go home, right? He's scared. So he writes a letter. This is what it is. His dad says, you could never come home ever again. Bas. Bas. Right? And I know. And he said, you know what? You've been dodging work your whole life. Because his dad's like, you know, work with me on these court cases, business management. All you do is sit up in the room all day. You don't, and you're alone. He's married by this time. He neglects his wife and kids. He's celibate. So his dad is like, I can't do anything with you. So his dad says, okay, now I want you to get a job. So his dad says, okay, I've arranged for you to get a job to work for the British government in Sialkot.
And from one side to the other.
And you cannot come home until your mom dies. Mom mare te fir tu kaagaz
मां क्यों मरवाना पे है वो की गल है
उन्हें क्या मां दा कसूर है कि मुंडा है And this is written in the Review of Religion 1922, the biography of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's mother. And okay, so now he goes to Sialkot, right? Wherever he was in a hotel somewhere, you go from the hotel straight to Sialkot. They know you're coming. Right? So he goes there. He doesn't. उत्ते जा जे ईद भी होवे तू कर नहीं आ सकता
ईद कल्ला कर दूं
उत्ते ही कर ले ईद करना हमें right so he's in Sialkot. He gets introduced to the Ahl Hadith movement and he meets
yes he does say that in his work that we're closer to the Ahl Hadith movement,
right? Nuruddin, the first Khalifa, was Ahl Hadith. Sayyid Muhammad Hassan Batalvi, his best friend, Ahl Hadith. So that's the crew. He gets married. Okay, so I'll get to that in a sec. So
okay, we'll get to that.
So now he's in Sialkot. He also comes across the Christian missionaries, right? Darwin's book gets published on evolution. All these things are happening, right? Sir William Muir begins to write his critique of Islam. So he's there for that in Sialkot. He doesn't go to any masjid. He doesn't pray congregation. He doesn't go to Jummah. He just in his room all by himself, 4 years. and then his mom dies, and they send for him, and then he comes back to Qadian, right? So still in Qadian, there's no masjid, there's none of that. His dad builds a masjid. Okay, now his dad dies in 1876. Right? So now, did pension the paise son? Oh, mugge.
Oh, ये खत्म हो गया कितने पैसे आसे हो ना
So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna write about religion.
अच्छा फिर आइडिया वो थे बन गया जी मैं पेंशन खत्म हो गया.
And his best friend, Sayyid Muhammad Hassan Batalvi, has a newspaper, the Ashata Sunnah. He's the mouthpiece of the Ali Hadith movement. He introduces Mirza Ghulam Ahmad to other people in the Ali Hadith movement. They arrange. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad gets funding from the Nawab of Bhopal, and her husband is one of the founders of the Ali Hadith movement. So they give Mirza Ghulam Ahmad a ton of money to make a book, 300 Arguments for Islam. So this is what he does, right? And his two sons are now grown. They're like above 20 years old or something like that. So he begins to write this book, Brahini Ahmadiyya. Part 1 and Part 2 are announcements. There's nothing even in the books. There's just nothing there. So then Part 3 comes out. He denies the miracles of Isa in Part 3. In 1882, he says, "Oh, the Muslims say that Isa brought the dead to life." He says it's wrong. Right? What he's copying is Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan. Sir Sayyid Ahmad Khan was the first Muslim to ever say this in his Tafsir al-Quran. So he's a mixture of the two and Sufi. He mixed up Buddhism and Hinduism, and he mixed it all up.
Yeah. Ahmadi was born based on borrowing from here and there.
He's cooking in the pot. He's cooking a little bit of this, a little bit of that. At 20 minutes. At the 20. So this is sort of how he started, right? And okay, and I forgot, in Sialkot, they found an Arab spy, and he translated for the British government. So now he was a translator for the British military. So what happened in Sialkot, those 4 years paved the rest of his life. That's where he got everything from.
So his ideas grew when he was in Sialkot.
Yeah. That's sort of when he saw the world, and then he planned to do all of this. Later on he says he knew he was going to make the claim to be Isa this whole time. He said he knew it, but he hid it. Right? So anyhow,
he was sort of testing the waters.
Yeah, exactly. And he wasn't writing. I think he dictated to people what needed to be written, and then they sort of knew what he wanted. So now he trusts the Ali Hadith, his best friend Sayyid Muhammad Hassan Batalvi, who they quote because he gave him a good review in 1884. That's his best friend. Bro, if my best friend is playing basketball and he's terrible, I'll say, "You're good."
Yo, man.
I'm not gonna say, "Dude, you're terrible." So
no, to understand this, Bashir, just to sort of bring some sort of understanding to this. So just to summarize, because we've had a lot of laughs as well, so we're trying to make it as serious as possible. How can we not laugh at what we're talking about? We have to have a little bit of a giggle. So he was from Qadian, okay, which is a town in the Indian, we could say now the Indian side of Punjab. Now that the partition has happened,
eastern side of Punjab.
Eastern side. So he broke his arm when he was a little kid, fell off a roof or something like that. And his father and his relatives were part of the Sikh Empire, or military officers in the Sikh Empire when the Sikh Empire was obviously at its height prior to the British. We should say the British Eastern Core Company was already there, but they eventually took it over time. Thereafter, to skip what he did in whatever we did with the money, we'll leave that to one side. So eventually he became a failure. He weren't the good boy that his father thought he would be, and he left him in a certain place. So afterwards he sent him to Sialkot, and in Sialkot his ideas started to formulate. Yeah? Right. Is that fair?
So then he comes back from Sialkot, and he's got to stay quiet because Dad's not going to let him So dad's like, "Putter, butta wal karke baith ja." Just work. That's it. I don't want to hear you say none of this. And
Yeah.
there's stories from Siratul Mahdi, his biography, where his dad was disgusted with him. You know, his dad was a Sunni Muslim. His dad built a mosque the last year of his life in Qadian. So anyhow, so now it's the 1870s. His dad has died. He's got friends in the Ali Hadith movement. He's running wild now. He's running free because he doesn't have the pension money. So his brother's in charge. His brother don't like him either. His brother never accepted him. His brother died a few years later. But his eldest son is being raised by his brother's family. You know, in the village, if you're incompetent, the uncle will raise you.
The uncle's the other father, isn't he? He's the other father. Chacha Somalia.
No, this was Taya.
Oh, Taya, but
Taya Nikal.
what up, bro?
They're like, Mirza, he just sits in the room all day. Well, we know now about codeine and morphine and opium. When people do it, what do? Well, they sit around all day and do nothing.
Yeah, nothing.
So if you're sitting in the room all day, this guy didn't have an iPhone.
That's it.
He's just, I mean, you can Google opium dens in China. That's what they did. They'd go to the den and just lay down. There's like 20 of them. Is that how is that even fun or like the thing to do? I'd rather go for a hike or something. You know what I mean? Like like something. I'd rather go play some basketball. Like for me, that's exciting. Not to, you know, let's eat some opium and sit around for 3 days and not move. Like, what is that? Like, what is that, dude? That's what you want to do.
So now I'm gonna ask you a question. Now that we've now gone into he's a young man now. Let's say he's a young man now. He's in Sialkot. He's obviously his brothers are with him, etc. When do you, but from your understanding and your reading, when did he start to formulate the idea and come public with it? You know, when he wrote that book or the third edition, when was it? When was the pivotal moment in your reading when he started to mix and match and started bringing these weird ideas forward?
Yeah, when his dad died, 1876.
That's when he started coming out.
That's when he said, "Okay, now I'm free. Dad can't stop me. I'm gonna do whatever I want." You know, he even said later, after he died, dude, he said Allah caused his dad and his brother to die, because that allowed Mirza Ghulam Ahmad to ascend. You see what I mean? It gave him because they were like, knock it off, putter. Tu hai na kani, tu changa hi nahi. Right?
They kept him in check.
They kept him in check, right? His brother, you know, so now his dad is dead. He meets the Ali Hadith. His best friend is Ali Hadith. He gets money from them to do this work, and he begins to write it. Part 1 comes out. Part 2 comes out. There's nothing there. It's an announcement. The whole book is an announcement. So part 3 comes out. He denies the miracles of Isa. So the Ali Hadith start to whisper. They're like, kafir? Is he? So a few of the imams call him kafir. They're like, dude, he's out. You can't deny the miracles of Isa, al-Islam, in the Quran.
Which is clear in the Quran. Yeah.
It's not the vague verses.
It's clear.
No, and brother, when I researched all this about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I didn't have your video. I didn't have everyone else. Now there's so much work. A Muslim has no excuse. Just go watch. The data is there. Back then, I had to Tafsir Ibn Kathir came online maybe 10 years ago, and I went and read it, and it blew my mind. I was like, I was never told any of these things.
Yeah, wow.
You know, it's clear. It's so clear. You can't argue this point. You know, go argue something else. Go argue whether you can hold your hands like this or straight down. Go argue that, but you can't argue these. So anyhow, so the takfir already hits him, right? He meets with the founder, and they say, we're going to give you a girl, an Ali Hadith girl.
Nice.
He's in. Now he's getting a girl. He's 50. He's 50 years old. 45.
When did he get married? When did he get married, by the way? When did he?
He married his cousin when he was 12 and had the 2 kids.
12.
When he was 12, yeah, 14.
But that is you.
But tu la jwan ho me.
So he married at 12, had his first two children when he was just like about 15, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you said that his Taya is
raising.
older, yeah, because he was a failure.
Right. And they all live in the same, like when you lived in the village, you know, the grandfather's house was, everyone lived, you know what I mean? So like, they're in the same house, you know, but, you know, maybe they built a wall, you know, like I remember I'm going to my dad's village and then like his families lived, and my dad said there was an era where there was no wall and everyone used to just free mix because we were all the kids of the grandchildren of whomever. So anyhow, now they say we're gonna get you married. He says, you know, like, right? So he goes to Delhi to pick up the girl.
So the girl from is he in Clout at this time?
No, he's back in Qadian. He's been in Qadian.
He's back now. Okay, fine.
Yeah, when his dad died, he was in Qadian. So he's back. He's been back. Sialkot was only 4 years, from 1864 to 1868.
वापस आ गया सीधे
वापस ओदी मां मर गई सी अब अब्बे ने कहा आ जा पुत्र सजा पूरी होगी. Maybe he was like a mama's boy, you know what I mean? A mom, you know,
Ahmadiyya लाडला सी है,
right? मां दा लाडला सी, मां बचा लेंदी सी.
जे कुट पैदा सी मां बचाना सी
उन्हें बचा लेना सी.
So he's in Qadian now. So what happens now? He marries this. He goes from Qadian to Delhi
to pick up the girl. Well, problem is, and he gets married. One of the founders of the Ahl Hadith reads the nikah, right? So
he still hasn't. When you said kafir, is he like at this moment in time? Is it just we're not sure yet? When you know we're on the back foot.
Yeah, it's whisperings. It's whisperings. So now he's about to get married. They did takfir after he gets married. They're like, because after he gets married, Brahini Ahmadiyya 4 comes out, and he's claiming his number one argument for why Islam is better than every other religion is because divine revelation hasn't ended.
So he was bold enough to claim that in the 4th edition, that revelation hasn't ceased.
It hasn't ceased in the 4th volume, and so everyone's like, what? So the Ahl Hadith don't play with that subject. So he's now we have a problem. But the founder read his nikah, but Dalvi had defended him.
His best friend.
His best friend said, no, he's not claiming to be a prophet. Everyone's like, oh, he claimed Nabuwwat. No, they're like, oh, he did it. And he's calling himself the like of Isa, Masili Masih. Masili Masih. And he has the revelation that he became a woman for 10 months.
Acha?
Das mean kudi ban gaya. Right? So then he says, then Allah came and blew into me. There's 2 verses of the Quran which talk about when the angel blew. He says, no, Allah blew into me. He goes, Fir main Isa alayhi salam ban gaya. Astaghfirullah. Right? So then, but he doesn't explain what this means. What is, you just claim to have this revelation, this whatever you want to call it, in your book. What does it mean? He's like, well, no, it just means that I'm like Isa. And any Muslim can become like Isa.
Yeah, we want to be like the Sahaba. We want to be, well, I want to say like, but again, like is not saying we are. It's like we want to follow in their footsteps. We want to follow in their example and their teachings and their message. So when he apparently become when he become a woman for 10 months, was he saying or was he implying that he was married? Does that make any sense or not?
Yeah, he was.
So that's why exactly what he was claiming. Maryam, he become Maryam.
Yep. And he quotes the Quran.
Take it out of context. Like they
take it out of it's standard. We should expect anything they quote is a distortion of the actual.
100%.
100%, right?
100%.
So all of this is happening in 1 year, in a 6-month period, right? So then he gets married, and he's been celibate for 25 years, never touched a woman. You know, that's what he says. But he has a toilet attendant, which is weird. Who's with him at all times, like a servant, like a male servant, to help in the washroom. I've never had it. I don't know. I don't know what that's about. But apparently, he's got a male attendant that helps him. And his right arm is. I mean, I thought you used your left, but I don't know what's going on. Right.
Oh. So is this, you know what you're saying now? Is this him actually writing this? That he had a male.
Yeah, he's got male toilet attendants that attend to him all night. They're with him 24/7. Very true. Very strong. And I'll cover that because later on he even had women massaging him at night, and they said it was halal for Mirza Ghulam Ahmad to touch women, and like there's references on this. It's the strangest thing in the world, right? So
he was allowed to touch these women.
Yeah, there's an ote bara boxy. like
Bara saaf suthra si hai.
Oh, bara changa hai. Oh, whatever they're like, right? And there's even stories from Siratul Mahdi. Siratul Mahdi is the biography of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's life written by his son in 1923 after he died, and his son messed up and told too much, right? And now we use this against him. Butha banda rakhna chahiye. He said, so in one story, he says there were like multiple women on Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's bed.
Wow.
And I'm like, I'm reading the story. I'm like, I wish there was more information. What room were they in? So I can type it up and explain it, right? But so anyhow, before we get to there, so he goes to Delhi to pick up this girl. Problem is, he's impotent.
Really? At this time,
he's impotent, and his toilet attendant knows it. Everyone knows it. They're like, well, why'd you get married if you're impotent? And then he picks her up. She's like 12, 13. He's like 40ish, 50. Okay, maybe back then it was sort of a norm. Okay, but he's the reformer. He's the one that's supposed to break the norms. Oh, okay. So here's where Nuruddin shows up to the scene.
Who's this Nuruddin guy?
He became the first Khalifa. He's the main ghostwriter. He's the main human being involved in Ahmadiyya. He's Ahl Hadith, scholar, knows Arabic, gives the Jummah khutbah. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad never gave khutbah Jummah, Naji.
Yeah.
He gives it. Nuruddin gives it. Nuruddin reads out his speeches. The famous hadith that said when Isa descends, he'll be on two angels. They say Nuruddin is one of the angels. He was the doctor in Kashmir for the Sikh government. I mean, this guy's famous. Everybody knows him. All the Ahl Hadith know him. He gives Mirza Ghulam Ahmad the medicine, Zadam-e-Ishq. You could make a rap song with the title, right? So it's got opium in it. So later on, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad admits he takes this medicine, it cures him, and he's able to have, I think he had like 10 children with like 7 survived or 6 survived.
Wow. So after he was impotent, he took this
Zadam Ishq. Yeah.
Okay, so this Ishq potion that he took, Ishq meaning, love, but would that be the best translation for Ishq?
Yeah.
So he took this, and then after that, he had 6 children or 4 children, which Simon survived 4.
I think he had 10 total, but like some died in infancy. So he had 6 surviving children, or like 7 surviving children.
With the
second one,
the one that he got from Delhi.
From Delhi, yeah. They used to call her Dilli Wali because she don't speak Punjabi. So she goes to the Punjab. She barely speaks. She speaks Hindi.
Yes.
So as you know, for the women, that's always, as you know, for the women, bro, it's gonna be hard anyway.
Oh, definitely. Some problems.
Now she doesn't speak Punjabi, and she's going to a Punjabi village. So all the
Delhi Wali aa gayi.
Delhi Wali aa gayi, and nu Punjabi nahi aandi, which is the same. I mean, Punjabi Hindi. I mean, to me, it's the same, but.
Yeah, to me it's the same as well.
Yeah, like I still understand.
Similar.
Yeah, similar. It's not like it's Chinese or something.
Yeah, it's not like Chinese and Malaysian, is it?
Yeah. So now he's got the girl, and there's a controversy on that too. But so now he gets the girl. He comes back to Qadian, and then in 1889 he does a bath. So then he gives up the Brahini Ahmadiyya series, he sort of lays low for the next 4 or 5. He leaves the Muslims alone. He attacks the Hindus. And remember, he never had any verbal debates. All his debates are written debates with his team.
Okay. Back and forth.
And Nuruddin, and they have a scribe. So,
so he's claiming it's him. He's claiming it's him, basically.
So a lot of Muslims have made mistakes and said Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was a debater. Not true. Like there's a famous video, Dr. Israr Ahmad, he says, Munazare Kardasi Asayonal. Okay, he had one debate with a Christian.
One debate his whole life.
One. That's not debates. That's one debate. And it was a written debate where they were in a house and they exchanged letters. Yeah, I was like, what kind of debate is that? That's like the internet trolling that people do.
Yeah, exactly. You trolling usernames the way I get from the who.
Yeah. So in 1889, he claims he says his God tells him to do a bat to have people join. People join. At this time, he's not claiming anything, but he did claim divine revelation. Remember that.
Okay.
He said the words of Allah never end, is what he's saying, right? So he sort of falls back. In 1891, at the beginning, he claims to have gotten a revelation. Isa is dead. That's when he comes out and says he's dead and I'm him. Nuruddin is still living in Kashmir at the time. So that's how he developed it. And he immediately goes to Delhi. The Muslims of Delhi want to see him in a debate. They're like, what is going on? So they force him into a corner. He denies his prophethood publicly.
The word got out and they confronted him.
Well, they said, come to Delhi to the main masjid. I forgot the name of the masjid. Bring the British police. We don't care. And he showed up with the British officer. You know how hard it would be in British India to get like a British officer to escort you anywhere? There's barely like 1,000 in the whole country.
Yeah,
they're escorting him to this event. So they won't let him leave. He denies prophethood. He says, no, I'm not a prophet. So they're like, they end up letting him go.
Sure, again.
Right. So then he continues to deny his prophethood for 10 more years. Then in 1901, in a book called Ik Galti Ka Azala, he finally claims prophethood in a slick, no one's looking way. He says, I've been a prophet this whole time. I misunderstood. Galti ho gayi yaar. And then he says, his son says later, no, he discovered a new type of prophethood that hadn't existed before.
For 1,200 years, there was something in the background, but only Mirza Ghulam Ahmad.
Only Mirza knew. So first he said a prophet can never be a follower, and he quotes the Quran. He says prophets don't follow. He's arguing this for 10 years. He says anyone who claims prophethood, wajibul qatl. He said that too. He said they're kafir. You can't do it. All of a sudden he says, oh, I made a mistake, and it wasn't my mistake. It was someone else's mistake. He blames someone else again. And he's basically claiming that anyone can be a prophet. He says all you gotta do is read Surah Fatiha, guide us on the right path. And anyone, he even said a chura. He even said once in one, chura bhi nabi ban sakta hai. Chura. But he said, but Allah will never do this. But the potential is there. If you just pray and read these verses of the Quran and do this,
you can become a prophet.
Achieve it, right? So he says he achieved it, and no one else had ever achieved it, right? So then 2 years later, he says, you know what? I'm the only one to be called a Nabi in the entire Ummah. No one else. So now he's claiming to be the final prophet, right? Then he also claims to be Hatam al-Hulafa. And he calls Isa alayhi salam the Hatam al-Hulafa of the Jewish system. And he says he's the Hatam al-Hulafa of the Islamic system. So now he's calling himself the last prophet. That's why Ahmadis don't accept any new prophets.
He's the final one.
So but they don't admit to it like that. You see what I remember? They're not gonna.
Yeah, they're not gonna come out boldly and say.
Yeah. See how me and you were talking. I'll just look. I don't try to get people to convert on Islam by telling him, yeah, you have to pray and not tell him how many times. It's like, bro, 5 times. There's no way around it. There's nothing you can do Unless if you're a woman or sick or but like most of the time, bro, you should be ready to go.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, he ended up claiming that. Then he says, you know what? I don't have any Hindus joining. Well, why don't I claim to be Krishna? So he claims to be the second coming of Krishna. And that's not even in the Hindu scripture. There's no such thing.
Yeah, return. There's no return.
There's no return for Krishna, right? Then he says, so okay, let me go back. Let me go back.
Yeah, and Ruhani Khazana, that book where he claims Krishna.
Yeah, and remember, Ruhani Khazana is a collection of all his books.
Oh, yeah, it's 20, 23, 24, 25.
So here's what they did. They took all the original editions, whacked them out, burned them. They don't want it. And then they made edits and created a new collection.
Oh, okay. And
all the controversial stuff, they will figure out a way to get rid of it. Remember, this is a business. So it's their, karobar, they're not going to sabotage themselves. Right. So let me go back. So when he claims to be the Messiah in 1891, he says, yeah, Isa al-Islam is dead. And he's like, he died in Galilee. Then he says, no, he died in Syria.
So you changed his position constantly.
Yeah, like 4 times. Then he says, oh no, he died in Damascus, or he picked some other place. So then he hears about Yuz Asif, Nicholas Nitovich enter stage. Okay. So then he's like, what is?
So this Yuz Asif and all of this declaration of Isa alayhi salam passing away or dying, was this at the later part of his life?
It's all in the later, because his first 40 years, he didn't do anything. So it's all the second half of his life. And it's real complicated when you put the dates in and stuff. Yuz Asif came around in 1896.
That's when he claimed
that's when he connected it, right? But so it's funny. The problem is chapter 2350. So first he comes up with Yuz Asif. Then he goes looking around, right? What can I go find that'll help me out? He doesn't find the Quran, anything in the Quran. He twists some hadiths. Then he says, oh, I found it. 6 years later, he says he found it. And he quotes chapter 2350 and says, this is not about his birth. This is about his death. And then he says, and Maryam also went to Kashmir. Well, why did Maryam go to Kashmir? She wasn't even wanted by the police. She wasn't even a wanted person. Why did she go? Right? So he leaves it at that. He's like, I don't know. So he leaves it. Years later, these crazy Ahmadis say, you know what? There's a city called Muddy. You've been to Muddy?
Rawalpindi. Yeah,
Rawalpindi. I've been there. They say Maryam is buried in that city called Muddy.
No way. So they just took the first part of the name and Otem.
So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad never said this. The first Khalifa never said it. The second Khalifa never said it. The Lahori Ahmadis began arguing it. The Qadianis picked it up and say, good argument. So I look it up. Bro, the town Murray didn't even exist 300 years ago.
Yeah.
It barely, the British invented it because India was too hot for them. They're like, oh, brother, it's so, they're from the cold. They're like, let's go make this an army base. And in the summers, that's where we're going to be at. So they sort of built a Catholic church, and Catholics revere the Mother Mary. So they built so they're like, oh, the grave is there. I even saw a video of an Ahmadi said he was there and he saw it. I was like, slap yourself, please. These were the British soldiers that built this church. There's a Catholic church there. I've seen photos. And they built this grave as like, I don't know what Catholics do with I know with Catholics and Mother Mary, they got a lot going on, like.
Of course, they've got this borderline worship, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I don't even know.
If not
worship. It's something like that. So it causes them to build graves and build churches in her name. I don't know. So then he landed on the Yuz Asif. Then he says, look, in 1906, he says Yuz Asif brought Injil. And he says
Yuz Asif is this Yuz Asif. Like before we get to the claims of Mirza, who is this guy? Like, what's the story? What's the history? Because people watching this now are gonna think, use Asad, like, who is this guy? So
Who is this guy? Yeah.
who is he? Who is he?
Yeah, so Muslims own this house in Srinagar, Kashmir, that is the tomb of Yuz Asif and Sayyid Nasiruddin. And Muslims own this, and people put money in it for prayers.
Okay, it's like a holy man.
As Sayyid Nasiruddin and Yuz Asif, you put money into this hole. There's like a hole in the building, and there's videos, people just drop money and go, right? And it's something like that. Apparently in Kashmir, there's a bunch of these. I don't know. I've never been to the India side, right? So the Muslims there don't like Ahmadis. They're like, on the billboard is no, Isa is not buried here. The Quran
on the billboard, on the billboard.
On the billboard of the place. They're fed up, bro. They're fed up with the Ahmadis saying this. So they all know it's fake. There's another guy buried there. Ahmadis could have bought this place 100 years ago. They could have done whatever. They didn't. They know it's fake. The Lahori Ahmadis are now saying maybe Mirza Ghulam Ahmad made a mistake, because we haven't found the revelation that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad claims to have that led him to believe this. You know, maybe they deleted it and got rid of it, but we can't find it technically.
So who is Yuzan? Who is Yuzan? Why is he so weird?
Yeah, there's a book called Tariq Azami, and I'll send it to you after this.
Yeah,
we can put it on the screen. In this book, it's clear that he was a son of a local king, and Mirza Ghulam Ahmad knew this. He read the book, but he didn't show that part of it.
Tariq Azami confirms that this Yuz Azar, who they have mysteriously made into a metaphoric Jesus, or if not Jesus himself, is actually the son of a local Kashmiri king. That's it.
And from an era before Islam, and it's clear as day. It's so clear, brother. And not just this book. There's two other books on the history of Kashmir, the oldest books on the history of Kashmir. 3 sources confirm it, not even 1. 3.
And you got those sources?
Yeah, all the sources. Okay, all the sources that are available about the history of Kashmir confirm that he was the son of a local king. He was a Hindu, I think. That part I don't exactly remember. Maybe it was some rogue religion, but this was before Islam had showed up. And it's written clear as day. He had a father. His father was a king. And
what about that? Howard Foster or Howard Arthur, the American that wrote about Ahmadiyya, he said that for centuries that tomb was sort of was looked after, or the caretakers were Hindus. It's only until like the Muslims gained control that this poet or the Sufi mystic by the name of Bulbul Shah came along and says, you know what, there's a potential prophet buried here. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad must have knew, based on his team that you were mentioning, they must have knew that, look, this guy is a.
They knew it. In fact, so Mirza Ghulam Ahmad sends someone to go check out the tomb, right? That person ended up quitting Ahmadiyya and became a Baha'i like 20 years later.
So he left Qadianism.
He left Qadianism altogether, and he became a Baha'i. He was a Kashmiri. I think it's Maulvi Abdullah or like Sheikh Abdullah or something like that. Yeah, so that story, even when I was a kid, bro, growing up in California, I had my doubts. I was like, what is this Jesus in India? I was like, that is like the most, and I didn't even know. My dad would just tell me Muslims believe that the roof opened and he flew into the roof. He flew into the sky. And we'd say, ha, 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 how stupid is that? That's what I was taught, right? I never read it. So once I read Tafsir Ibn Kathir, I went and got Suyuti. Then I went and got Qud. Then I went and got and I'm like, they all say the same thing.
Together.
There's too many sources that say the same thing for us to overlook the facts of the case, bro. And that's how it goes.
And even the argument, I think you probably watched the video that I did. Even the argument of Mumituk, again, that has context. And what they would do is prey on one, again, their authenticity of hadith is basically non-existent. They'll just take anything that seems appealing. And now we find that, again, we'll do our video response, that they don't even care about authenticity. Ahmadiyya don't even care.
They don't care because so here's what they say. They say Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's a prophet. He can now go into the hadith and tell us what's authentic, what's not authentic. Okay. End of the story.
End of story. Regardless what the narrators and what the muhaddithun said, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Don't care.
So I tell them, so then then we can't even talk, because I follow the rulings of the scholars who knew Islam better than me, know Arabic better than me, you know, and I don't just go read one. I'll go compare 10. And if all 10 are saying the same thing, I close the case. It's like, it's, you know, so that's the problem is, and then they want to talk to us about hadiths. They deny all the hadiths on the Mahdi. They only accept the one. They accept two, I think. And that's
two in one.
They're both weak. They accept both of the hadiths that are like the most weakest hadiths like ever.
Look, you know what, with Ahmadiyya, what it is basically a combination of so many different theories, so many different sources, and whatever appeals. Like they believe something and then they look for the evidences. So they actually believe something and then say, you know what, where can we find this? Oh, there's one here. No, doesn't matter about the authenticity. Just follow. Just it's got some sort of, it's written somewhere. So let's just accept it. Now the question I want to ask is like, you know, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, when he come up with this idea of Youth Azhar. Okay. Now Youth Azhar was apparently Jesus who migrated from Palestine and then made his way to Kashmir to find the lost tribes of Israel, apparently. Right. Is that right? So this Youth Azhar, did he bring the Injil with him to Kashmir?
That's what Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says. And Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says it's nowadays, it's in the book of Buddha. And he says, if you look at the book of Buddha, it's similar to the gospel. So he's like, it's the same thing. He goes, there it is. Where did he come up with this? Why did he even do this?
But look, one is an Eastern religion. And you know, Jesus has now come from Palestine to this region. Ultimately, he's still gaining revelation because he's still a prophet. He would also obviously have so much knowledge of the previous scriptures before him. So why will he end up in the books of Buddha that Jesus wrote? You know, I don't, like, where are they basing this from? Is it just Mirza Ghulam Ahmad just wrote it and we take it now? That's it. Okay.
That's it. He's a prophet. Mirza Ghulam, to them, so that's why the Lahori Ahmadis say, oh no, he's not a prophet, because now they can say galti ho gayi yaar. From the guy, right? He was just a mujaddid. That's what they say. He was just a mujaddid. And you know, the Muslim Ummah waited to do official takfir on them until 1984. The Al-Azhar finally said, well, in 1974 in Pakistan, they were declared non-Muslim. And I think Saudi Arabia banned them also. But in 1984, Al-Azhar said, okay, now the Lahoris got to go, because they were becoming like an issue. So
10 years later, they also said they
Al-Azhar. So that's why some of these guys like Sheikh Albani, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, they were like, no, some Ahmadis are, because the official, because they were like, well, which ones are you talking about? You know, and Muslims are such nice people, bro. We don't want to do takfir on it. You know what I mean? So that's why some of the older scholars in some of their older recordings might have accidentally said.
And even then, even if they did say, it's not binding upon us, they're wrong. Simple.
Right.
They're wrong. Yeah. See, what they're clutching onto is straws. What they're relying upon is, one, it's a religion. Well, stuff like it is a new religion outside of Islam. That if those are not from that region, like us, meaning from the subcontinent, their mistake we can overlook and say, you don't know much about them. You know, you're not from that part of the world. You don't speak our language. You don't know the history about them. So you're just going at the forefront of, you know, the 6 articles of faith. Do they believe in the 6 articles of faith? Do they pray? Do they give zakat? Oh yeah, they're Muslims. Right. Do you understand what I mean? So even if Albani said it, if anyone says it to this day, if a scholar comes today, even from the Indo-Pak subcontinent, said, you know what, I believe they're Muslim, your opinion don't mean nothing. You understand? Because we go by their text are kufriya, they're heretical, they're from the Zanadiqa. You know what I mean? They are heretics, and now it's time for us now to be bold enough to say that.
Right, and they really, really hate Muslims. You've seen all the exposed videos that they do.
Oh no, it's just
they are going at Muslims harder than anyone, even harder than the Christians, even you name it. These guys are attacking every Muslim scholar in existence.
Can I ask you a question now? You know that we've covered Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's early life when he become obviously when he got into Sal Court and got into the Ahl Hadith movement. Now the question is, how do they view us now? We know we get to Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's death, etc. We'll get to that later. But now what I want to know by asking you is that after your interaction with them for decades, how do they view Muslims? Like, if we don't believe Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is a prophet, Messiah, 3-in-1, or whatever it is, hybrid or whatever, what is their ruling upon us if we don't believe it?
Right. So it changes over time. Right now, it's stealth takfir. Okay. It's okay. Ahmadis believe Muslims to be kafir, but don't say it. It's not our business to say it. That's the policy. In closed doors, my dad and brother used to always call them kafir. Muslims are kafir. They say it all the time. Officially, it's different. So I think the Khalifa recently said anyone who says the kalama is a Muslim. Well, that's not what his grandfather said. That's not. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said any Muslim who believes that Isa hasn't died yet is doing shirk. And he called it shirk al-akbar.
Wow.
He didn't just call it normal shirk. So he's basically doing a takfir on Ibn Kathir, Sayyuti, Tabari, all millions. He just did it on millions of scholars. Because brother, it's clear as day in the Quran. Isa alayhis salam hasn't died yet. And if you want details more than that, it's tricky. You're gonna have to go through it's not even worth he hasn't died yet. Brother, it's in the Quran. Here are the verses. There's a hadith by Abu Huraira in Sahih Bukhari. Ahmadis deny because he connects the return of Isa alayhis salam with chapter 4, verse 159. It's a Sahih hadith. Abu Huraira connects it with the physical return of Isa. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said Abu Huraira was a gubby. He lacked intellect, stupid. Well, but then they don't translate the word right. They say no, he meant gubby in a good way. He didn't mean gubby as stupid. He meant gubby as lacks intellect. What? What do you? It means stupid, dude. What? So he went to the extent to call Abu Huraira stupid just because there's a Sahih hadith by him. With that breaks Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's entire line of argumentation. So
do they actually believe? This is where I'm starting to get baffled. Do they actually believe the Sahaba anhum had this view that Isa alayhi salam died and it was a consensus amongst them? Do they actually hold that view?
They do, and it's weird because I've told them stop saying we've disproved you. This has nothing to do with that. Look, we don't give the exception to the rule every time. You know what I mean? When someone's talking, hey, yeah, because when someone's talking, you don't stop them and say no, brother. There's this exception. You can say prayers are mandatory, but there's exceptions. You know what I mean? You don't cover the exceptions every time you talk. Or I've told Ahmadis, why didn't Abu Bakr say Isa died in India? And why didn't he say that? You know what I mean? If that's really what the case was. So it's ridiculousness after ridiculous argument, after ridiculous argument, after ridiculous argument. And it's so sad.
And now to you now. So when did you leave Ahmadiyya or Qadianism? When did you leave?
Yeah, so officially I left Ahmadiyya in 2015. And then I became a Muslim. 6 years ago, officially. So the story goes, in 2004, I went to Pakistan and got married in Rabwa. So I saw it. I've been there. Mosques are empty, right? My cousin was there. So I go to the internet cafe to check my email, and I'm checking my email, whatever. I come back the next day, I check my email again. I look over, there's a guy watching pornography. And I'm like, what? Am I seeing? Oh, no, he is. I'm like, oh, he actually is. And there's like
in the internet cafe.
At the internet cafe. Back then, internet cafes were like, you got to check your email. You got to go in the cafe. So I'm like, I got to get out of here. So I immediately get up and I get out of there. So I go home and my cousin is there. And my cousin smokes cigarettes. He smokes hashish. I'm watching him do everything. And I'm like, bro, I I don't touch anything.
I'm
You
from
know,
the States. I'm from the States, and I don't do this.
I was like, bro, I'm not even like a super righteous guy, but I don't smoke. I was like, I don't even know what kind of cigarettes these are. I was like, they don't even look like they have a filter. I was like, look, I grew up. My dad had a gas station. They sold cigarettes. There was a filter. You don't even have a filter. It's like, I don't know what this is. I'm not gonna touch it, bro. Don't give me anything to drink. I was like, even if you give me a soda, I'm gonna be like, hold on, bro. What's this?
What's inside it? Yeah?
I don't know. I was like, me and you. I was like, cool. I can hang with you, right? So I go back and I tell him, I'm like, bro, what's going on? He goes, oh, that's normal. He's like, in fact, I've been banned from here many times. I was like, well,
Okay.
what have you been banned for? He goes, same thing, for having internet cafes that showed porn, and a lot of dudes would show up as like a party. I was like, so like you and a bunch of dudes would. He was like, yeah. And I'm like, oh no, bro. So then I walk around for like 2 weeks, you know, on my bike, and I saw things, you know. So and then I get married to a girl from Rabwa, and
But she's actually at the time.
yeah, still is. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Crazy story. So I ended up getting a divorce later on. So anyhow, so I've been to the head. It's not like I don't know what this is. You know what I mean? I was born there. I got married there. I married an Urdu-speaking girl. She fixed my Urdu, or she says I ruined her Urdu because I speak Punjabi, right? So
is it the case of the reverse of Mirza Ghulam Ahmed bringing the?
yeah. So I started asking her, hey, do you read this stuff? She's like, no. I'm like, but you can read Urdu. I read Urdu so slow, it's not even fun. You know what I mean? It's just, I'm with the magnifying glass and, this is not cool. Like, come on, I'd rather do something else, right? So I'm like, so you can read all these books and you haven't. And I was like, I'm a bookworm, you know, like I like to read, you know. So I started asking people on Rebel, and no one had read any of the books. I was like, I'm up to the 20th person. It's not possible that I questioned 20 people on if they read the books of Mirza Ghulam, and none of them read any of them. I was like, this is hard for me to believe. So I come back and I go to alislam.org. I read everything in English. I start to read the Quranic commentaries. Right. And I start to think, and brother, no one can figure this out in one day, in a month. You're gonna need time.
Yeah.
It's especially without a teacher. You know, it's going to be really, really hard, right? So the first thing I researched was prophethood. I said, why is this a problem, right? So then I find out, there's like 60 hadiths that say no prophets, not one, not two, not like 10, and 60 is a liberal number. It's probably higher than that.
Probably, yeah.
The amount of hadith that say no more prophets, bro. There will be no more prophets to be born, over and over again. So I'm like, I see a problem. So then I'm like, well, who are the Lahori Ahmadis? Why did they deny it? So then I start reading about them. Then I go to my local mosque and I ask the imam a question.
In the States?
Huh? In the States, yeah. In California, I asked the imam, I said, why did Mirza Ghulam Ahmad make a mistake on his prophethood for 20 years? Why did he say he wasn't, and then all of a sudden he says, I made a mistake, I am? The Ahmadi Imam is baffled. Like, what are you talking about? He claimed prophethood the same day he claimed to be the Messiah. And I'm like, no. Actually, it's 10 years after the claim of the Messiah.
But you knew more about.
Yeah, because I was reading it. I was reading all the English books that I could get my, and Lahori Ahmadi literature there's so much. There's so much more back then. Now it's probably it's similar. So they don't know. I asked my dad gets mad. I asked my brother, he gets mad, and I'm like, oh man. So then I keep reading, and I'm like, okay, no matter. These Qadianis are out of control. Then their Khilafat's a family business. I'm like, oh man, okay. So then I'm like, okay, what about Isa, al-Islam? Then I read about Isa. I'm like, they did the same lying on prophethood that they did on Isa to begin with. They twisted sources here. They twisted sources here. And then I read Tafsir Ibn Kathir. I remember showing my dad. I was like, Dad, did you know this is into like you told me the story about the roof? You said stupid Muslims believe the roof opened up. I was like, he isn't a stupid Muslim. He's like one of the top.
Randy Burns, one of Randy Burns.
Like, what do you? This is not me and you. This is not the guy who owns the gas station or whatever, bro. The guy in the store. This is not it. So I'm shocked, and then I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? Because now I got 2 kids. I'm like, okay, I'll just stay quiet for a while, until I can figure out what my next. I'm in a tight spot. I was like, they got me backed up into the wall, right? So I'm like, okay, at a minimum, I'm gonna stop praying with these guys. I'm gonna stop going to their masjid. I'm gonna stop giving them money because the prayers don't count. I was like, I come to the realization I've never been Muslim. It like hits me. I'm like, I've never been Muslim. I'm like in the middle space, and I got to figure out my next move. So I'm like, I'll just keep it quiet, man. I'm not here to start any trouble. But so I'm working for my brother, and in our family business, in his business, it used to be our family business. He starts hiring a lot of Ahmadis that he shouldn't hire. This is workplace discrimination. You're supposed to hire the most capable human, not these guys. Right. So a lot of these guys start working there, and I'm in charge, and they start complaining. This guy doesn't go to Jummah. This guy won't pray.
That private, the size, see the signs, huh?
They're like, why is he like that? And they're like, oh my God, he has a master's degree. Then I start teaching, right? And like they want me to do speeches at their masjid, and I'm like,
no way.
I don't even agree with. Why would I do a speech for you guys? They're like, no, you know your stuff. And I was like, ask someone else, man. I'm not doing it. I'll show up to the basketball tournament. You know what I mean?
That's the must.
I was like, I'll pull up to the basketball tournament, park in the parking lot, and hang out in the parking lot with the bros. But I was like, I'm not gonna do this other stuff with you guys, right? So they end up spying on my computer. They told my brother that this guy is anti-Ahmadiyya. He's searching up Muslim websites because I'm learning. Like in the meantime, I'm like, okay, what is the Mahdi? Okay, what is Hanafi? What is Shafi? You know what I mean? Like I can't go to the Muslim center because I'm still, you know what I mean? They'd be like, what's going on? So it's all covert, right?
Yeah, of course.
So alhamdulillah, Allah brought me into the deen through the research eventually. So he ends up firing me. So my brother finds out. He's on Twitter. He's on all these guys know him. Ruzzy knows him. They all know him, right? So he ends
from Canada.
He's from Canada, but he knows my brother. He knows who I am. Yeah, because my brother's been like a kiss up. He's been a kiss up for like forever. So everywhere he's went in the Ahmadiyya movement, he goes and talks to people in charge. Hey, this is who I am. I want a promotion. I want to work for you guys. And I'm in the parking lot with the bros. Like, bro, we don't want none of that. We barely believe in this stuff. How are we gonna do anything, right? So So he was networking, like he was networking, and I'm not that type. So so Ruzzy knows him. So he fires me. He just gets rid of me. And at the time, I'm a doctoral student, right? I'm the most qualified employee in the company by far because I can do paperwork. I'm fast with a computer. It was a tow truck company. I grew up a mechanic. I was an engineer in the Air Force. Worked with Boeing. Did aircraft engineering type of work.
You're the most qualified person there.
By far, it's not even close. And when I got out, I'm the one who made the business because I was working there. I'm the one that made the whole thing go, because I'm like a worker. I like to work, bro. So anyhow, he fires me. Then him and my dad start poisoning my ex-wife against me. They're like, your husband doesn't come masjid nahi aanda. Kyun nahi aanda? Namaz nahi padda. Kyun nahi karda? And so now there's friction. Right. And, women will not tell you exactly what the problem is. Indirect. indirect. So you got to figure it out. So I can't figure out what the problem is, but this person's got a beef with me, right? And they won't stop. So I'm like, okay, you know, we can't stay married if all you're gonna do is argue with me as soon as I walk in the door, and I don't even know what it's about. It's like I literally don't know what the heck's going on. I've been gone all day. I don't go out. I go to the gym and play basketball and come home. I'm old as hell. Like, come on, you know what I mean? I'm in my now I'm in my 40s, but so I you know, now we're divorced. I wish her the best. You know, I had some amazing years. But so that's so then I officially quit Ahmadiyya in 2015. I go to my dad's house and I say, Dad, I quit Ahmadiyya because Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was on opium and he lied about it. I was like, Dad, look at his picture. In the neighborhood that I grew up, they'd see him as a customer, a potential customer, because they look at his eyes and be like, oh, yep, that's who we're looking for to come buy a product, right? And I'm like, it's a dead give off. He was diabetic. He had all these medical problems. He's got to take opium or he's not going to live long. You know, it's extending his life and that explains why he never led salat. You know, he never led salat, and he referred to the hadith that said Isa wouldn't lead the prayer. He'd tell the Mahdi to go lead the prayer.
But don't they deny that? Don't they say, "Oh no, it's one person"? You know,
because one argument contradicts another argument. They forget.
Yeah, they can't keep up. They can't keep up.
But so that's how they explain away why this guy doesn't lead the prayer, bro. You can't lead Zuhr, bro. I was doing that when I was 7, 8 for the kids, for like
and
the
it's
women.
a silent prayer. And it's a silent prayer as well.
The way I grew up, I was the muezzin of the house. I'd wake up 4:45, wake everyone else up, give the azan.
So is it so? Just to add, because obviously I don't have any interaction with the Qadiani Ahmadiyya community. You guys, well, not you guys. Obviously, you're Muslim now, but they at the time they pray. They're punctual on this. They're punctual on this salawat. Yeah.
But the only thing is, they unnecessarily combine prayers.
Oh, okay.
So okay, maybe that's a small issue, but praying 5 times, Tarawih,
and do that as well.
Yeah, it's all there.
Memorizing the Quran as well. Memorizing the Quran, yeah. Do you have that?
Have a lot of hafiz. They don't have a lot of hafiz.
They do have it though.
Yeah, they claim that one of their khalifas was a hafiz, and I think there's like one in America. You know what I mean? Maybe like 4 in the UK. And it's weird because none of their imams are hafiz.
None of their khalifas are even knowledgeable. None of their khalifas are even knowledgeable as well. You can tell from a mile away.
So they do that on purpose. They do that because they want to keep their murabbis pulling a string on them. Like where are you gonna go, bro? You didn't even go to college. Now you're 40 years old. Where are you gonna get a job? No one's gonna hire you. You don't even have any skills. So shut up and take this money and keep selling Ahmadiyya for us. You know, so then
they're very boastful people, aren't they? Like I noticed in the interactions with me, like come back to true Islam Ahmadiyyat. Come back to true Islam Ahmadiyyat. It's like what? Like what are you talking about? Like do you reckon it's like it's more of a nationalistic thing? It's more of a sort of, you know, a Pakistani sort of, you know, like an identity. Like, is that right for me to say that? I don't know. Yeah. How would you feel?
Yeah, they want their own country, and the British didn't give them one. They, as I told you, they had control of Azad Kashmir. They even authorized offensive jihad. So remember, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad said the Messiah would come and end jihad, right? Well, in 1947, the second Khalifa said he reauthorizes jihad.
Wow.
And they had a regiment that was fighting against India, offensive jihad. So every argument contradicts the other argument. You know, and it's a total mashup. And that's sort of my. So I became a Muslim just 4 years ago in 2017. So after quitting Ahmadiyya, I didn't become a Muslim immediately. You know, there was some time. Then I went and said my shahada at like a local Islamic center. Young imam too. He's like 25. Love the guy. Like now he's like 29ish probably. But yeah, it's been great. I take my kids to the Islamic Center. They have a bunch of friends there. Like the Muslims that I've met in the last 4 years, amazing brothers in my neighborhood. There's so many. My kids' best friends, they come over. Oh, brother, it's amazing, brother.
And with the ups and downs that obviously you've experienced after leaving, I would say a movement that is very what's the word I'm looking for? Very secretive, but at the same time very, very aggressive as well in their propagation. What has been the highlight of after finding Islam for you, apart from the brotherhood, etc.? Is it because the pure teachings of Tawheed about knowing the Muslims and our sources? Because, like you said, you were researching Ibn Kathir, Qurtubi, Tabari, and vice versa. With the Ahmadiyya, was it just restricted to the writings of the Dajjal, or did they keep you ignorant? Is the best way I'm trying to address. Is that what it is? Keeping the followers ignorant.
Yeah, they keep everyone as ignorant as needed. You know, they have a 5-volume commentary on the Quran. They'll tell you to go read that. They'll tell you to go read Introduction to the Study of the Holy Quran. They'll tell you to go read this, and this. But the explosion of the internet has changed that a lot.
Of course,
you know,
of course.
So now the entire young generation is saying, "Hey, what is this? Why did he claim to be Krishna?" You know what I mean? They're asking questions. You're Asif, Jesus in India. What is? So now everyone can go look for themselves. So and what really brought me to Islam? So remember Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. He adjusted for Charles Darwin, and that is bad, right? So Charles Darwin came up with the theory of evolution. It's trash can, right, brother? If you look at the hummingbird, it's unique. A bird didn't change into that. You can't change so drastically, right? The camel, there's only two. So what brought me to Islam was science, reading the Quran. Allah says in the Quran, just look around. If you want to prove my existence, does he say it so many times? Just look, just look at all the animals. You can't figure it out? That this is not normal. This is not. It happened because of reaction, the oxygen and levels and the water levels met, and then no, I'm sorry. So the camel, there's only 2 types of camels in the world. The winter camel in Western China, the double humper, and then you got the summer camel, which is in Arabia that the Muslims. Okay, have you heard of Mansa Musa in West Africa?
No.
The richest black man ever in the history of the world. Was a Muslim.
Oh, the one that used to pay for the Hajj. Used to pay for the Hajj.
Exactly. You know what made him rich? The Muslims introduced the camel into West Africa.
Wow.
And now the West Africans became rich because now they can sell all their stuff to North Africa, Europe, take it to Mecca. They can on land. They can go anywhere now. So they didn't have camels or horses in North America and South America. So the natives can't really do a whole. You got to send a runner. You got to send a man to go run to go deliver.
Yeah. So now they got transportation.
They don't have land animals that can carry stuff. So the camel has no evolutionary tract. What did it come from, bro? There's nothing. There's no animal can change and process its blood slower to where it consumes less water over 2 weeks. That's not possible, man. Right? The octopus, it's got like 3 hearts and like 7 brains. Right?
Oh,
it didn't come from anything, brother. It didn't come from a shark or like a salmon fish. I don't know. Yeah, it didn't come. It did like so. As I was like reading all this, and I spent many hours, and so my blog, Ahmadiyya Fact Check blog, has got like 1.2 million views. I do it all for free. I don't monetize I've done. My kids were telling me the other day, Dad, you've done like $2 million in man hours on Ahmadiyya.
Oh.
Like if I was getting paid like $10 an hour, the amount of time I've spent, and I said, brother, I do it all for free, do it all for Allah. Allah gave me the DNA to be able to read and write like this. You know,
Yeah,
so that's another thing. DNA. Charles Darwin thought it was just goo. He thought it was just plasma, right? We know, no, our blood has got this code in it
yeah, coding. Yeah.
that is shaping our behavior. It's like, that's not normal, bro. I don't care who, how, where you, wherever you come up with this, it's not normal. So the voice box, the human voice box, Allah didn't give it to the dog. Allah didn't give it to the cat. He gave it
It's true.
to us.
Um,
You can't, it's barely a thin piece of like muscle that vibrates. But literally, it's not really anything more than that. You know, maybe it is, and we can't detect it yet.
I don't know. Look at the
Right?
science that are there, man. Look at the science.
Brother, so the talking parrot has a similar voice box, but it's in a different spot. The human eyeball, if you look it up, this is not normal. Okay, this was specifically designed, right? And okay, the effects of gravity. Okay, so Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says Adam was not the first man.
It was not.
That? Was not. So Ahmadis, and he left it at that. He didn't make a strong statement pro evolution or.
He just left it. He just said he's not the first man. That's it.
And then you guys figure out the rest. I'll leave it open. So Ahmadis don't believe that Adam was invented in Jannah. They say he was on earth.
Also, just the Quran.
They're going against the Quran. So they also don't believe hell is forever. So the Adam thing. So Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says, check this out. He says Adam and Eve were born in pairs.
Where? Paris.
Twins. And he says, you know what?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Twins. And I'm like, so
Twins.
they were twins and they were husband and wife also.
But on earth, not in heaven.
Yeah, they say, and so Mirza Ghulam Ahmad says, oh, and I'm the second Adam, and I was born a twin too. But there's like no evidence that.
Yeah, I think he was. You know what? Listen to all of this. I'm now confident that he was high.
He was high the whole time. So I go to my dad's house in 2015. I say, Dad, I don't need the Quran. I don't need hadith. This is simpler than that. And Efim Kaisi. He used to sprinkle it into his lassi. They didn't even have to smoke it, right? But here's the side effect. When you eat opium, diarrhea.
Yes.
So how did he die?
That's what we're getting to now. We'll end off at this. Now, a lot of Ahmadiyya apologists have come out and said that this is a fabrication, this is a lie to slander Mirza Ghulam Ahmad. Now, what's the reality of this story? Because that's all I've been made aware of as far as his death is concerned. What's the truth?
Yeah, so there's a lot of sources here. I'll try to simplify. You can always hit my blog. I got it all written out. He goes to Lahore. Right? So he goes to Lahore. In the middle of the city on Brandarith Road is where he's staying at. He's living with 5 doctors. In a house. 5 doctors live in this housing complex. It's still there on Brandarith Road. The Lahori Ahmadis own it now. So he's surrounded by doctors. It's not like, you know, if you get shot in the street and you don't get to ambulance quick enough, you'll die or something, right? They can't revive you fast enough. You know, now people live longer because ambulance is so quick.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So everything's going fine. He says, "Chal bibi naal sair kariye." Sair kariye Lahore di. So he had a buggy, like a horse-driven carriage, and him and his wife go out for cha pani. right. Let's go have some chai and street food, right? Truck food, right? It's a beautiful thing. So he comes back and he's sick. All of a sudden he's sick. He's vomiting, diarrhea, right? Telltale signs of cholera. I'm sure he died of cholera, right? Now this is around 10 p.m. at night. He's going Rati, you know, Isha Tumaz. Right. So his wife's like, okay, let me bring a portable toilet. Let me take care of you. Okay, cool. As Muslims, brother, we don't make fun of the way people die. I've had aunties, uncles. I can't even ask, how did your mom die? I'm just like, don't even tell me. You know, I don't want to know the details. It's just bad. Your organs fail. Right. But right? He used to tell everyone else you would die and you would do this. And so that's why we have to bring it up, is because he predicted the death. Mubaila. He would do mubaila against people. I pray, you pray. If you die of cholera, he said cholera was a wrath of Allah. And he said death by, so that's why they can't admit to it, because he had said that. So he's getting dehydrated immediately. All his fluids are coming out. His wife, he bangs his head against the head post. She's trying to pick him up. He's spilling everywhere, right? She's cleaning it up. The doctors are called. Dr. Mirza Yaqub Beg says when he showed up, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad was sitting on a toilet. So now it's midnight. They're picking him up, moving him on the toilet. I mean, how else do you move a guy around? You know what I mean? Okay, put him in the bed. He can't move. He can't talk. He's so dehydrated he can't speak. Right? But he's got a little bit, and I think he's trying to scribble. So his father-in-law shows up, and he tells his father-in-law, "Minu wabai haza ho gaya, Mir Sahab, minu mujhe wabai haza ho gaya hai." So he tells epidemic cholera. He says to his father-in-law, "Mir Sahab, I've contracted epidemic cholera." Okay. These were his last words. His father-in-law's book, it wasn't published at the time. It was published 20 years later. Okay. Right? So those were his last words. The doctor came before that, says he's sitting on the toilet. So then he has another diarrhea attack and his heart stops beating. At that time. This is where they start lying and say, no, he didn't die at midnight or 1 a.m. He died the next day at 10 a.m. Trash can, bro. Right? They call another doctor. They call the white guy. Right? Dude, you're in a house full of doctors. There's no pulse. He's dead, bro. They call the white guy. Dr. Sutherland. Here's what they say. Dr. Sutherland shows up. He goes, "What do you want me to do? I can't save him. He's dead." So before he died, or as soon as he died, they gave him an injection into his heart. I don't know what injection this was. It's a mystery. Didn't revive him. So now he's laying there dead. The doctors leave, and they say, "Now, how do we tell the world?" So the rumor starts to spread. In one night, he was healthy. He died in one night. He died of cholera. The newspaper in a few days publishes it, says he died of cholera. The first Khalifa says, even if it was cholera, so what? That's the story of his death. He died of cholera. You can look this up.
So what is cholera for those people who don't know what cholera is? What is cholera?
It's if you drink water that's infected with this cholera disease, it'll dehydrate you and you'll die in one night.
Wow.
What
caused cholera then? Because of his opium drink?
Well, maybe he went out and had some chai. You know what I mean? He.
Oh, so so this is overnight then. This happened just like random.
In 6 hours. It's over. It's game over. He went out and either ate some food or drank something that was infected.
Wow.
And it's game over.
It wasn't like it was a condition over time and it deteriorated. It was just sort of one night, one day, bang.
Bang. And remember, he's living in a house with 5 doctors who can't save him. So at the end, he has a heart attack and dies. So that's how you die of cholera. All your fluids come out, and what's your heart gonna do? It's gonna fail.
It's got no circulation, has it?
Yeah, it's just not gonna work. So once your heart stops beating, your brain in 2 minutes, your brain stops getting blood. So in CPR, you gotta revive a person quick. Because if they stop getting blood to even if you revive them, they could have brain damage. You know, it depends on how long it took you to revive them.
How quick you do it as well.
Yeah, if it takes you a long time, and blood stops going to the brain for like a minute, they can have or maybe memory, or maybe, you know, something could be affected. So he dies. The rumors are out. They're like, okay, how do we get him home? So they put him on the train. That's also a controversy. All the Muslims came out. They're rioting. It's a crazy scene. And the truth doesn't come out till 15 years later. They were quiet. It was the cholera. What the press said. The press says it's cholera. Independent newspapers say it's cholera. They're quiet and mum, like 15 years later, they're like, no, he died of diarrhea. Well, that's almost as bad. Okay, infants die of diarrhea. Like, you can look this up. Young kids die of diarrhea. You know, it happens. Okay, but this guy was not living in those conditions. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He had the best care. He's living with the best doctors, the best Pakistani or Indian doctors, or some very good physicians. So that's how he died, and everyone loves that story on TikTok, on Instagram, because it's funny, you know, and because they attack us so much. When we say that, they all run away. You know what I mean? It's like the thing that you could say, and that they're going to be so embarrassed they leave. So
yeah. So in conclusion, we've discussed a lot about this movement, its birth, its obviously development, and at the same time, what he was promoting, who helped him, who supported him, who gave him the sort of the tools and the necessary spotlight. As you said earlier, this movement gave him a lot of clout. Now, in conclusion, what's your message now, on a serious note, to the Ahmadiyya or the Qadianis? What do you have to say to them?
yeah, talk to us seriously. If you want to have a serious conversation, acknowledge our counter argument on Ibn Abbas. We've told you Ibn Abbas was talking about the future. He wasn't talking about Jesus in India. So once we've given you this counter argument, first thing is you have to say, okay, I understand the Islamic position, and you can continue to disagree with it, but at least acknowledge what it is. Acknowledge there's a solution. They're not even willing to do that, and so I've been playing a cat and mouse with them for a long time now, 5 years now. You know, it's all cat and mouse. You know, Razi is not even a missionary of the Ahmadiyya movement. I don't think he has a job. I think from what I heard, he's at their missionary training center. You know, I don't know if he's becoming a missionary or not, but he's getting brainwashed to just go and say Imam Malik said that he died. But tell us, what did he mean? You know, did he mean he died at age 33 and then for 3 hours? That's important to know.
Ibn Rushd, who commentated on this statement, said no. You mean he died in the sense where he was taken to the heavens?
Right.
That's
right.
Rufi'a ilayhi. You see?
Right. So Muslims have had different. It doesn't matter. He's going to physically come back. There's no one else.
Yes. There's an agreement on that. There's a consensus on that.
Once you have a total consensus, and so I figured that out in 2012. No one told me. I said, you know, one thing that I keep finding in everyone, it doesn't matter if they believe he died a day, 2 days, 1 day, he died in the future.
Taken, sleep, 3 hours,
whatever,
7 hours.
Whatever. I was like, none of that matters, because everyone said he's going to physically come back.
Yeah.
Not Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, Isa ibn Maryam. There's no one else named Ibn a woman. You're Ibn your father.
Yeah,
you see what I mean? I'm Bashir, whatever my dad's name is. I would never be my Bashir, whatever. It would never have. That's such a unique, like, you can't confuse it with anyone else. So they just want to not talk about that. They're like, let's talk about the death of Isa. That's a 7-month argument we're going to have. And now they've avoided who Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is, how did he come to his claims, Jesus in India, Yuz Asif. So the final part of this is the financial exploitation. They believe if you give 10% of your monthly earnings and 30% when you die, it's called the Wasiyat program. It guarantees heaven.
Wow.
So
they even guarantee heaven now.
They're guaranteeing heaven. And then they have the gall to say, well, not everyone. They're like, oh, you're pretty much guaranteed heaven. Remember, they always got the dual statements. So they're like, you're guaranteed heaven, but you're not. So they will have someone pay their whole life. They die. They'll review the case and say, not accepted. But they also won't return like the money. So so
Business, like you said, isn't
it's a total business. So in the UK, the Khalifa lives in a 40 million pound facility
it?
in
Yeah, no.
total. It's worth 40 million pounds. Um, this is his family business. You know, they criticized my ability to read Arabic. I told them not to. I can read Arabic, not like English, but the Khalifa, now everyone went through his Fatiha, and guess what? He doesn't pronounce the ayin. So
Yeah, you can't read. You can't read.
yeah,
Can't read.
so yeah, that's pretty much like the last part of it. Pray for my family, for my parents, for only
Sure.
one brother, only one sibling is into it. Most of my cousins are slowly quitting. You know, Alhamdulillah. The younger generation in my
They're waking up.
family, they're not with it at all. Uh, you know, and
Amazing.
because you can't marry a Muslim girl if you're a Ahmadi boy. You know,
Yeah.
they'd rather you marry an atheist and fake convert her to Ahmadiyya. Just sign the Bats form. And to become an Ahmadi, you got to sign a contract,
Wow.
a Bats form. But it's like a contract. To be a Muslim, I said the Shahada.
Oh,
And I had
no.
like, you don't even really have to have a witness, but the Imam was like, I said it in front of the Imam, so you know it's like official. So,
Yeah. It just
um,
witnesses just affirmation for the community that there was someone present, you see. So,
right,
if the Imam does it, you said, all right, but who else was there? So if you say, oh, there was two witnesses, it's like, yep, we could ask them. They were there as well.
yeah,
So Ahmadiyya and its discourse doesn't really attract anyone, to be honest. It's not really attractive, what I would say, in terms of its pull. It hasn't got a pull. It hasn't got really, it's got nothing to offer, honestly. And I've been reading about it now properly for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And honestly, it's just like you said, he contradicts himself constantly. And
yeah,
he makes up stuff. He takes what suits him, what goes with him, and then obviously, even if it's inauthentic, weak gospels, Buddhist, Hindu, you name it, let's just mishmash it together, let's gel it together, and here you go. It's a belief system, isn't it, that Ahmadiyya follow? But in
yeah.
closing,
Sorry to interrupt you. So they do have something to offer, and the British government used them in West Africa to convert Sunni Muslims.
oh,
So remember, the British government was in Nigeria, uh, Ghana. They had different countries. They
in the colonial time, in the colonial
colonial
time,
time. The French had Mali. All these Muslims were Maliki fiqh. In
yeah,
West
Maliki,
Africa,
yeah.
Maliki. Mansa Musa was Maliki, right? So Maliki don't even pray like the Ahmadis. They pray with their hands to their side. So the British government brings them in and says, hey, they'll teach you English in their schools. Convert to Ahmadiyya, learn some English, and cooperate with us.
Okay,
So it was Ahmadiyya was used in West Africa, East Africa, colonial, and even now the puppet governments, Indonesia.
wow,
They were taken to South America, Trinidad. So they've taken it and said, here's the appeal. We'll help you get a job.
you learn English.
We'll get you educated, get some English in you. You know, English, in aircraft maintenance, everything's in English. In air traffic control, everything's in English. Because you're telling people to land when everything's got to be in one language, except the Russians. The Russians don't follow any of that. But most of it, all the manuals, there's no translate there. Maybe there are now, but it was mostly in English. So to learn English was a big thing, bro. Like
Yeah. It still is. Still is.
it
Still
still
is.
is. You know, can you imagine what our grandfathers thought, how big of a feat it would be to perfectly speak English? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially
So
especially when the British Raj was ruling what was known as the known world at that time. It
yeah,
was
so this organization, and that's why my brother's in it, because he's like, it's such a good organization. They'll help you get a job. They'll help you get a wife. I'm like, okay, cool, but what is it about? You know what I mean? Don't fall for the sales job that they're doing this and they're doing that. I was like, even the Catholic Church is doing a lot of this stuff, but what do they do behind the, what do they do with the little boys? You know what I mean? Like, what's all that stuff that they're doing, that they've been doing? So don't be fooled or brought in, like I'm not a good shopper anyways, like if I see furniture sale, I know it's a lie. Cause I'm like, it's not a sale. They got that sign up year round.
They just want to get you in the store. They just want to get you in the store.
That's all it is. So I was always against that. So that's their appeal, is we're educated, we're this, we're that. If you're not that smart, we'll network and get you a job. So that's yeah.
So yeah, it's been educational, Brother Bashir. Allah yabarak feek. And I think this what's your blog again? We'll get that out there. What's the blog?
Ahmadiyya Fact Check blog, TikTok also, YouTube also. Yeah.
Instagram? Yeah,
Instagram also, yeah.
Yeah. So get following, especially from those again, all the Muslims, obviously, is without exception, but more importantly for those in the subcontinent like ourselves. I believe that the blog that you've set up and the information that you put out there, we're gonna have interactions with the Ahmadiyya movement. It's inconceivable as Asians or Pakistanis, most notably, that we're not gonna have interaction. So their doubts are very, very. When you look at it properly and you dissect it, it's very weak. But if you don't know, they'll pull this, or even Abbas says this, and and they'll confuse you. So Ahmadiyya Fact Check blog, go check it out. Again, we've released. I think I've released 2 videos in the past week and a half. And we got a big one coming after Ramadan. So we got more education. Until next time, until obviously, until Eid, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept your fast, accept your Taraweeh. And Brother Bashir, any final comment before we end this podcast or broadcast?
Nope. That's all, bro Hajji. Thank you so much for your time today. You're amazing, brother. I learned so much about Islam and Isa al-Islam and the sources. It was amazing. It was amazing. And Allah is showing what, he gives the ummah knowledge. So we're examples. If you need a reason to believe in Allah, look at what he's done. So
may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us and keep us safe and keep us upon Islam and firm. Until the next videos on the Bro Hajji channel. Keep safe. I know coronavirus is obviously not as in the UK. I don't know about the States, but we are coming out of lockdown. So stay safe. Keep obviously your masks on, hand sanitizers. Do what you have to do to stay safe. Keep your family safe. Keep Brother Bashir and his family in your du'as, and I'm sure he'll do the same. So we pray for your safety. وصلى على نبينا محمد.
كم مرة عصف الأنين بداخلي، كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محن تمر، وكم كرهت مصابها لكن رأيت الخير يسكب في أنا. كم مرة قد ضقت من عظم البلاء، بشر وشيطان يحاصرني أبا. كم مرة قد أظلم الدرب ضحى وتحدر الدمع وضاقت بي رؤى. كم مرة عصف الأنين بداخلي، كم مرة قد ذاق قلبي من أساه محن تمر، وكم كرهت